real estate is not a holy grail as most people paint it to be. You know, it's usually sweet when people say, I bought a land for 300k and I sold it for 2 billion after some years. When you hear it, you'll be looking for a 300k land to buy because you want to have the same story. It's very dicey. It's really dicey to buy land in emerging neighborhoods. When you buy a land, you're buying a leasehold, a right to use that land for 99 years. But before that 99 years expires, if the government needs that land for overriding public use, what is overriding? They can revoke your rights to that land. You're entitled to compensation actually, but the compensation is not for what you paid for the land. Good evening and welcome to today's podcast. Is this really a podcast? Is it really a podcast? Well, I guess it's just me having fun teaching the small knowledge I've acquired over time. Let's get in. I'm a student of history. I like reading. I like listening to people. I like listening to tapes. That is why if you pay attention, you would see that you would have noticed that I get to call names of my influences. I get to call names of people I've listened to over time. And I get to make reference to books I've read. The reason being that I wasn't born with the knowledge that I've been sharing. The reason being that these folks have been influences in my life. I say that to say this, that I'm not going to stop calling names, especially names of people I've learned from. And the reason why I call those names is because I want you to go back, Google these people and get to learn from them too. I hope you got that. Today I want to be more ordered. Like I don't want my thoughts to be too scattered. So I scribbled down thought pattern. So this is how my thoughts is going to flow today. So I'll be making reference to the short note I have here. What I'm talking about today is I'll be talking about the Land Use Act. This video is a real estate video. Yeah, it's a real estate video. I'll be talking about the Land Use Act. I'll be talking about eminent domain. Don't worry, these things are not big something. They are not big words. They're just technical terms that we use, technical jargons we use in real estate. But I'm going to make sure that I break those terms down. So the Land Use Act of 1978. 1 minute. So the Land Use Act of 1978, actually, it was a decree then, but now it's not made an act. We'll be talking about new towns. We'll be talking about rate of return. You know, it's usually sweet when people say, I bought a land for 300k and I sold it for 2 billion after some years. You know, that thing sounds sweet, and when you hear it, you'll be looking for a 300k land to buy because you want to have the same story. But if these people really tell you what they've gone through, trying to weed off land grabbers who try to take the land, or trying to weed off government the state government from repossessing those land, you would know that they really deserve the price they finally got to sell that land. The reason why I'm talking about this is that it's very dicey. It's really dicey to buy land in emerging neighborhoods. It's very dicey. It's a dicey one for you to buy land in new towns. This is me coming out plain. You know, several agents wouldn't say this. Several realtors wouldn't tell you this because they just want to make a sale and move on. You know, the scuffle happening presently in the Lagos real estate market, and not just limited to Lagos, between the Instagram influencer and a particular real estate company, is as a result of what I want to talk about today. It is actually dicey to buy land in emerging towns, in new towns. Reason being that you have several things that are going to impact on your land ownership in these towns. That is why when you finally get to make it big in these new towns, as in when this new town finally develops and become big, that is why the rate of return is usually out of the roof. Sometimes, okay, like the example I gave, imagine a land you bought for 300,000 becoming 2 billion. How many percentage is that? Even your computer wouldn't be able to calculate that percentage. But if you know what that person went through to finally succeed with that sale. I was having a discussion with a developer friend of mine, and he was telling me how most of the lands in Ekpe will very soon be repossessed by the state government. Let me tell you, and the reason why is this so. The government, Land Use Act, placed ownership of every land within the boundary of each state in trust, as in placed it in the hands of the state governor, meaning every land within the boundary of a state is belongs to the federal government and held in trust by the state governor. That is the Land Use Act in simple terms. This is to say that when you buy a land, you're buying a leasehold. You're buying a right to use that land for 99 years. After 99 years, the government takes over the land. But before that 99 years expires, if the government needs that land for overriding public use, what is overriding public use? Like if they need the land to construct road, if they need the land to construct, say, a general hospital, a public hospital, if they need the land to construct an airport, they can revoke your right to that land and use it. And you know, when engineer Senator Umar said something about human face, like there's a human face to everything. What he's trying to say is, instead of the state government to possess an already built up area, they would rather go towards a place that is not built up. That is not like that. This thing I just said now is not a very good example I want to use. It's not a very good example to use. But this is to say that it is easier for the state government to do acquisitions in new towns because you don't have much persons living there already, and the cost for them will be limited, because once your title is revoked and the government takes over the land, you are entitled to compensation actually, but the compensation is not for what you paid for the land, but instead for ground rent, unexpired ground rent, and unexpired improvement on the land, which can be economic trees and structures you have. But most times, this this Newtown, these bushes, this bare land don't usually have any structure on them. So you see why it's dicey to own land. And despite the Land Use Act, people still sell these lands at exorbitant prices, thereby forfeiting the reason why the Land Use Act was initially came into place. Because one of the reasons why the Land Use Act came into place was to curb speculation. But is it really achieving that? Dr. Mbanesi said something about when the plan for moving the Federal Capital Territory to Abuja in 1979 came into fruition by Daddy General Muhammadu Buhari, the then head of state. Most of them went down to, most of them moved from Lagos, rushed to Abuja to acquire properties. Dr. Victor Mbanesi is the MD and founder of Banex Group. And if you stay in Abuja, you know about the popular Banex Junction and the popular Banex Plaza. That is the land they acquired way back then when the thoughts to move to Abuja came about. He said a story about, sorry, my neighbor is making noise. He told the story of how he acquired the land, and then over time, he acquired several, and over time, they said most of the structure built wasn't in line with the Abuja master plan. Most of his friends that bought land with him in Abuja lost their building because the government said it wasn't in line with the master plan. His big breakthrough came only because his plots was within the Abuja master plan. That was the only thing that saved him. So now, will you say he was wise or he was lucky? So this is me saying the reason why the returns when you invest in new towns are usually higher as against when you invest in already established neighborhoods is because it is actually riskier. It is actually riskier to invest in new towns. So this is me saying that Ekpe, Ibejuleki, Enugu, all those, especially when the land is a prime land, the risk of it being repossessed by the state government is high. I think there was a time Nchakancha in Enugu had similar issue. Nchakancha is one of the neighborhoods around towards the MNA axis. They had that issue with the Enugu state government. And this thing happens in several pockets in several other places that I really don't have the details. I really don't have the facts at this time. So this is me saying real estate is not a holy grail as most people paint it to be. I was having a discussion with a woman in my church. So after service, it was a midweek. After midweek, we were talking, and she asked what I do. And you know, when people ask me that question, I really don't like saying the whole estate surveying and valuation stuff, or I have specialty in property valuation, because it usually sounds complex. So I just tell them I'm into real estate. So when I said that, she was like, "This one that everybody's going into real estate. This is that there's money in real estate like that. Like, why is everybody doing real estate?" And I was like, yes, there's money, and no, there's no money. So yeah, that was how I said it. The truth of the matter is that real estate business is not for the faint-hearted. Business generally is not for the faint-hearted. I remember when the whole buzz about Forex, I tried Forex actually, and sincerely, my hands were burnt. I burnt my hands. I burnt my hands when it came to Forex. And Dr. Charles Apoki said something that marriage is like somebody in a secret cult. They want to leave. The person in the secret cult wants to leave, but he's still inviting his friends to come join him in the secret cult. So same thing with real estate. Real estate is like a secret cult. The people inside already want to leave, but still they'll tell you to come. So to end this whole matter, because I like limiting my videos to 18 minutes so that I can have 1 minute for the teaser at the beginning. So the catch here is, real estate is not a shortcut to wealth. It's a long-term business. And there are few developers that didn't get their hands burnt. Very few of them didn't get their hands burnt. The reason why the company trending on socials is, the reason why theirs is so pronounced is because their portfolio is massive, their portfolio is large. As against somebody that may have done just one project, theirs is in thousands. That is why it's as if their own failure is pronounced. I'm not saying you should like give them any slack, but this is me saying you should put a human face to it. You can buy your land and that land gets repossessed by the government at any time. So this is me saying, and you can do your entire due diligence and a plan will just come into the heads of the governor the next day, and he would say, and he will pick that your land. That is that your land I want for the override, for the project we want to do for the community. So this is me saying, before you are study the master plan as a developer, study the master plan of the place you want to play in. Let it be that you did everything right. Let it be that it's the black hole that you don't have control over that is to be blamed. And let it not be that you left any plate unturned. Man, the profit in Lagos, everybody's interested in Lagos. But just know that there is a risk and there's also the reward. The higher the risk, the higher the reward. The risk in Lagos is high, so is the reward. I think I'll draw the curtain here. Yeah, I'll draw the curtain here. And I've also exhausted my points. Thank you.